I just got a message saying I missed therapy today. Oops.
You're like, I'm recording my podcast. Let's learn about this man who drew 13,000 drawings about a thing that never happened 150 years ago, and then how nuclear waste can destroy everything forever. I'm fine. Hi, everybody. Welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Kaveh Taherian.
And I'm Hannah Hillam.
Hannah, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm really happy that I'm a guest again on this show for the 53rd time.
It's about time that you were a guest on my podcast, despite what you've been claiming for the past 52 episodes.
Oh, well, since last week's episode was the Patreon AMA, we get to get back into your stuff. But before we do that, I want to ask, how are you doing? How is everything?
It's okay. We're doing better. The winds for now seem to have passed. A lot of the fire warnings, the red flag warnings that were brought about by it, that they were worried that even though they had contained some of the fires, that the Santa Ana winds might just pick back up and relight a bunch of stuff. Thankfully, as of right now, when we're recording, it's not an issue. And it seems good. But also, you never know, dude. It's every 5 minutes something seems to change. But at this particular moment in time, while we are recording this, things are okay for us in terms of things getting worse. It doesn't seem to be getting worse. That being said, they're maintaining the level they were.
Yes,
and without the winds getting crazy, they can I think they can now sort of fight it a little bit better because they're not worried about it spreading as much. And again, I'm not a firefighter, nor do I have any idea how any of this works. I'm just repeating
You're not?
Yeah. You'd think so with my huge six-pack and my shredded body and my knowledge of things. I looked at you
and I thought, that man's a firefighter.
Clearly. Yeah, I don't know. Don't listen to me. Don't listen. Go read real news. I don't know. Although apparently these days people get more of their news from idiots like us than they do from actually reading the news.
There is no real news anymore.
Yeah, who knows? No, go. We've been following, whatever, the local networks and stuff like, ABC.
I'm glad to hear though that it's like stabilized.
It seems stabilized, although the concern now is I was going to mention this too. I think by the time this comes out, our friend Dr. Kaveh has asked me to be on his show on House of Pod. I'm going to record that in a couple of days. We're supposed to talk about air quality and AQI and all that stuff that I do not understand, so I am, as usual, that's why you hire me, is to be the resident idiot who doesn't understand anything. I'm like, how does this work? I don't understand what this means. Should I be running an air purifier in the shower? I don't know.
Court jesters of the modern age. That's what podcasters and comedians and artists are.
Exactly. I'm not afraid to be dumb.
No, of course not.
So we're going to talk about that. So I think that'll come out this week. I'm also going to be
on his show. So
that's right. I was going to say, you're going to be on it afterwards, too.
I think like the episode after yours, I'm talking about
Nice. Oh, maybe you shouldn't reveal it. It's supposed to be a surprise.
Fine. Just you know what, Alyssa? Bleep that out.
Bleep it out like you swear.
I'm talking about bleep it. That'd be hilarious.
Anyway, we're fine. We're alive.
Thank goodness. Can't say the same about David Lynch.
I know. We just found out directly before recording that David Lynch passed away.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Very upset. Salute. R.I.P. David Lynch. Wherever you are, I hope you're smoking cigarettes and having a coffee and enjoying life. Or death. Enjoying death, I should say. Yeah.
I hope he's enjoying death. He will. It is also, by the time this comes out, it'll be 2 days after my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Which is the only thing happening on January 20th.
Nothing else. Nothing else.
And Martin Luther King Day and nothing else.
Nothing else.
Anyway,
happy birthday.
Thanks.
Welcome to, you're getting closer to the March of Death. You can join David Lynch and I soon enough.
Oh, is this your last episode?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Before you David Lynch yourself out of here? Sorry, you had to have started smoking when you were 8 to do that.
Yeah, that's true, unfortunately.
You're a little behind.
Way behind. Speaking of behind, look at that transition.
That's a good one. I was going to try to transition clumsily, but that was better.
Speaking of behind, I didn't get to do my second part of my tab last week because of the stupid fires.
Stupid.
But this week I managed to finish my tab. Do you want to hear it? We don't have to. It's not a big deal. It's not.
I was actually going to ask if we could skip yours today.
I was going to ask if we could skip mine today as well.
Please. I've been keeping it's been so hard not to go look it all up because I can't stop thinking about it. So let me see these madman's drawings.
Okay.
Tell me all about them.
All right. We're going to talk about this now. All right. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, or I should say, if you haven't listened to 2 weeks ago's episode, now's the time to do that because you're going to need all that juicy context.
Uh-huh.
But to recap, Charles Dellschau was a Prussian immigrant who came to America in 1849. His records were a bit shoddy for the first few years, but eventually he got married and had 3 kids with a lady named Antonia, who had a daughter from a previous marriage named Elizabeth. Pretty soon, Antonia tragically died, along with all 3 of their kids. Charles got remarried, and then that wife died too within a year. He's super traumatized and sad and goes to live with and he goes to live with his stepdaughter Elizabeth, and then he spends 20 plus years working on some secret project that no one cares about and got stuffed in the family attic after he dies, until 40 years later it ends up in a junk shop in Houston, and an art photography student named Mary Jane Victor discovers it. And it's 12 hand-bound volumes of more than 2,000 pages filled with drawings and collages and whatnot about the development of flight, as well as his membership in a secret aviation enthusiast club during the California Gold Rush. Mary and other artists in the area get really excited to figure out what the shit this thing was. And to quote our Hot Topic king, Jack Skellington, "What does it mean?"
Oh, didn't know we'd be having Goth King in here today.
Listen, that's just the way it goes. So that's basically a very, very, very quick recap of
that was good.
The other episode. Thank you very much. It's almost like I wrote the first one.
You did pretty good for having written the first one.
Thank you.
Already. No, I was going to say, of course, I have to relate everything to family history. When you said Prussian ancestor, immigrant, I was like, oh yeah, I looked into it because of course I did. And my Prussian ancestors just chilled out through the entire famine and left at the very end in the 70s, 1870s.
Oh, they wrote it out.
They wrote it out until they, I think, probably couldn't anymore.
That sounds, putting it off to the last minute kind of thing.
Yeah, it doesn't sound familiar at all.
Yeah.
Stubbornly digging their heels in until the last possible moment. No. Anyway.
Okay. So the first question is, what does it mean? So first, let's take stock of the contents of all these manuscripts, all right?
Okay.
First, Chucky spent 2 years writing and illustrating his memoirs in 3 separate volumes, 2 in English and 1 in German.
Okay.
The earliest is called, quote, and there's a lot of misspellings here.
Yes.
In evening hours of leisure, recollections of real and speculative work of friends in time long gone, by from a friend yet here. They are gone, but their work is not forgotten, end quote.
You mean meet at later bar, day or night sometime?
So immediately made me think of this man as an 1800s Prussian equivalent of Charlie Kelly. It's exactly what I wrote.
The same thought.
Exactly the same thought.
The way it continued was like, there's too many connector words in there. It's like to and it, Meet at later bar, day or night sometime.
So it made me think he's a bit insane, but also maybe a bit of a genius, right? Because that's how Charlie is.
Chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Energy balls. Charlie's like a savant.
Energy balls. Yeah. Yeah. Is this a bird with teeth?
Yeah.
That's my favorite by far. Of Charlie Kelly, King of the Rats, is my favorite episode of the whole season. Spa day? Or what? It was a spa day. Spaghetti day?
Anyway, so the aforementioned volume is about his time spent in Sonora, California from 1854 to 1859, which I will get into in a minute.
Okay.
Once that one was done, he wrote a follow-up called, quote...
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay.
Quote, recollections, real and speculative works on ideas of friends in for higher aims long gone by second part, end quote.
Okay. Beautiful. Oh, this man. Oh, what?
The volume consists.
I'm picturing Charlie mouthing it with a video camera.
It's literally
Dennis with the campaign
just
trail.
Charlie. He's Charlie as a butcher.
Charlie is a butcher. He kills rats with a bat. Killed whole families of those
wrench.
things.
The volume consists of his responses to a letter he read in the Houston Post in December 1898 that describes the basic concept of jet propulsion. By the way, so he's just responding to a letter that he wrote in the Houston Post and then just wrote a book. I don't think he sent it to anybody. He just compiled a really long response to this one letter.
I love him. Okay, so he sent all this into some sort of, you said a paper?
No, he just wrote it.
Okay.
He just wrote it. I don't see, he might have. I didn't see any evidence. No one said this, that if he sent it in. I think it's just like he saw this letter that's in the Houston Post in December 1898. And he just writes like a couple hundred pages in response to this letter to him. It's like amazing. Whatever. At some point, Dellschau translated the English texts into a German manuscript with the two parts titled, do you want me to try and read the German part? I will slaughter this.
You can try, but you don't have to.
I don't know any German, so Erinnerung, Warganeger, Jahreszeit und Seitenspiegel, niedergeschrieben und illustriert in freien Studentwiltertil. But I do have the translation.
I'm so sorry to every German person.
I'm just
probably
decimated.
One that's listening.
Recollection of years past, of time and a way of life written and illustrated in idle hours, which sounds much more coherent. And the other one was Erinnerungen über Wahr und Versuchsarbeiten, Gedanken, Adin von Freunden, Langstad, aber nicht Vergussen von Enheim, jest ihr, der bringt sei auf Paper, von den Kerl habt ihr es nicht erwartet?
I just zoned out. Half of it that I was like, where am I? I forgot what I'm doing.
So this one says, recollections of real and experimental work and thoughts and ideas by friends long dead but not forgotten, put presently to paper by one who knew them. You would not have expected this from that guy. I don't know.
Okay.
In total, there were 12 books, but judging from the careful dating and numeration of each page and large gaps in the numeration, there may or may not have been a dozen or so more.
Oh.
Just the ones that survived. Everything is handwritten in cursive. There's no pristine scored typewriters here like you had found at one point.
Yeah, no.
The texts are rife with spelling and grammatical errors, but let's remember he is ESL, so show him a little bit grace.
Know,
and honestly, the German ones sound like a little bit more like recollection of years past, of time and a way of life written and illustrated in idle hours. Sounds like a perfectly normal
sentence.
Normal sentence, but it's way funnier to hear
good.
The English translation or the English ones that he wrote. But it's also interesting that he wrote them in English first.
Yeah, I was going to say, why didn't he write them from German and then translate them into English? Well, you know what? I bet I'm going to be asking why he did a lot of things, and there's probably no answer for any of it.
Probably none, yeah. So anyway, he writes it all English and then German. And after the memoirs, he shifts into Cranch mode.
Yeah! You're bringing Cranch mode back, dude. Yes!
We don't use it enough. And he starts making all the drawings and collages, the stuff I sort of teased at last week, or again, 2 weeks ago. He makes his sketches on an 18-inch hand-cut square sheets of butcher paper. Then he cakes on thick watercolor that almost looks like gouache. On
butcher paper.
Yeah. And this is where he really goes ape shit with the flying machines.
Yeah. If you haven't heard last week, go listen, because we get to look at some of them in there.
Remember, 2 weeks ago, I keep making this mistake as well.
Whatever.
Here's a picture of the book as it's sort of presented, like when he's finally put it all together.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then, go ahead, describe it.
The stitching. It's like, it looks like a stack of paper that's been kind of stitched together haphazardly.
Yeah.
The stitching itself is nuts. Is that leather? Yeah, it must be.
I don't know, actually. And then this is sort of what it looks like when it's opened up, which is unbelievable to me. Like, this looks incredible.
Wow. Wow.
I don't even know how you describe what this is.
That's the thing. It looks kind of like a newspaper on an acid trip. Like you're reading the newspaper and also tripping. Does that make sense?
And there's these very like ornate borders around the whole thing, around every page. So basically, there's no white on the paper.
There's no
every
white.
Square inch and centimeter is covered with something.
When you get close up, you can tell, oh yeah, he's an amateur, but that's what makes it great. Like there's the kind of wiggly, warbly lines, but the patterns are pretty concise. Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I think this is probably a bigger debate for you and I to have, like, after we sort of get through this in terms of like what makes an amateur versus what makes a professional.
I have a lot of opinions on that.
Yeah, as do I.
I should say this person has not trained under another artist.
Yes, I think that's probably fair.
That does not mean he's not an amazing artist.
Right. But there is a consistency amongst all of it that a lot of professionals I know don't even have the capacity to do that. It has
style and consistency, which is something all my critiques in college were always from professors were always like, well, you certainly have a style. You just got to catch up to the style.
Yeah.
And that
which I hate the word style. I always say
Me too.
It's a voice is what I always say.
Oh, I like that. You're right. It's very consistent.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Wow.
It's like these
and the
reds
colors
and greens.
He uses are great.
And, it's all muted.
Yeah.
But weirdly vibrant in a way. It's very graphic.
Uh-huh.
It's, there's not a lot of super representational rendered things. So it's like half patterns, half graphic shapes.
Yeah. And there's these really cool, like mechanical drawings of.
They're flying machines and stuff, remember?
Flying machines, yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. So those are the pieces of art. So after he does all the drawings and sketches, newspaper clippings are glued onto the pages, and then there are elaborately lettered bits of text, sometimes in the Latin alphabet and occasionally in a simple alphabetic code, kind of like what I was talking about last year.
Code.
Or again, last year. Other episodes. Last year. God, these fires have warped my brain, dude. I've lost all concept of time.
You're gone.
Dellschau called the pages plates and the news clippings press blooms, seemingly a reference to flowers pressed in books, which I thought was kind of fun.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So at first, when you sit down and look through it all, it definitely supports this is an insane person theory, but let's unpack it.
Hot take?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I think just on the surface, if you're not necessarily
on the surface,
somebody who's
it's like
familiar
this
with it.
This person is intense.
To say the least.
Intense person. But I wouldn't say crazy. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. So I'll begin with what's in the text itself, straight from Charlie's brain to our brains before I get into all those pesky, Pinocchios and fact-checking scores of the mainstream media.
Wait, his name is Charlie.
Exactly. He's literally Charlie Day.
Just like, I didn't make that connection.
Charlie Dell instead of Charlie Day. Charlie Dellschau.
Charlie Dell.
Wouldn't it be great if it turns out that like all the writers of It's Always Sunny were like, yeah, we saw Charlie Dellschau and then we decided to base the character on him.
Based him on this man.
If I'm ever able to do a movie about this, I will hire Charlie Day to be him. That would be incredible casting.
It'd be beautiful.
Okay, so from 1854 to 1859, Charlie alleges that he made his way west to Sonora, California, presumably in search of gold like everyone else at the time.
Okay.
And even though he had just gotten here from Prussia, he immediately understood what it meant to be in America, which is what? Get rich and retire early.
Yep.
Right? Additionally,
I had again.
Yeah.
My great great grandpa went to the gold rush and found absolutely nothing, which is why I'm in a rented small house in California.
It's tough. We're all going to rent forever. Additionally, this excitement had happened during a time when people all over the world felt they were on the cusp of the airborne age.
Right.
Europeans at that time were particularly losing their shit over air balloons, which almost certainly
the French were obsessed with air balloons.
Yep. So it's reason to believe that, of course, this probably rubbed off on him in his youth. So it would have been just something embedded on him earlier. And again, a lot of people that made it to California, the way that they were traveling, they were like, dude, this sucks ass. I wish we could just like fly. Right. I hate this. Sort of like how I always long for a transporter from Star Trek, but even if I got one of those, I'd figure out a way to complain about that too, because that's just the human condition.
Yeah, it's the specifically me condition.
Yes. Anyway, so there's an area where people are getting rich and an influx of dudes who would have loved the fountainhead, obsessed with changing the world through a revolutionary new paradigm shift that will optimize the travel experience with incredible upstream revenue possibilities, blah, 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 blah. So, of course, all these guys got to get together and have a conference with like those stupid little tiny head mics that I hate that make me so mad.
Ugly, awful.
Ugh. If you're too good to hold a microphone, I hate you. Right. Just hold the mic and talk.
Hold one. Like a regular person, or at least put it on the stand. Yeah. Don't put it on your head.
Oh, I'm optimizing. Unless you're like a Broadway singer and you need to like act on stage. That's one thing. But if you're like
singing opera, fine.
No.
But if you're up there shilling a bunch of like MLM products to me,
gross. No. Anyway, so these dudes form the Sonora Aero Club, which is mostly a weekly drinking club, but in order to justify their alcoholism, they mask it under this kind of like Illuminati wannabe keynote, like for Apple structure, where someone has to present ideas for how to solve the problem of flight.
Okay, here's the thing. I think almost every cult starts as a drinking club.
Yep.
As we're all hanging out and, brainstorming, and now we have a cult.
Yep. So allegedly, they were inspired by the work of Peter Menace, who Charlie refers to as, quote, California miner, a German up in the 40s, a plain yes, a rough man, wit as kind, a hearth as to be found in very few living beings, Bengs, by the way, although addicted to strong drink and forever out of means, flat brocky, which broke, yeah. His friends regarded him as a man blessed as a genius in getting up useful contrivances.
So what he's saying is that he's got a heart of gold, but he's a extremely alcoholic, destructive alcoholic.
Can't get it together. Yeah.
Can't get it together. Can't get money, but he's got a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Working in secret and borrowing nails, screws, wire, and other articles from his friends, Menace constructed the Goose, or Goosey, an airship consisting of 2 balloons with a basket fitted out with a pilot seat and steering wheel.
I'm trying to just go with it. I'm in this world. I'm going with it. I'm gonna not ask too many insane questions because Goosey. It's an amazing name.
Dellschau explained that the inventor generated lift by mixing a secret lifting fluid with water and a special apparatus inside 2 balloons.
Where do I get some of that secret lifting fluid? I want some of that. Is that also alcohol? Is that what that is?
I'll get into that. One Sunday, he invited his friends along Woods Creek to watch his takeoff on a test flight to Sonora and back up. Quote, up he went all alone, and how many big-mouthed men opened their eyes, telling he would never come back alive. He break his neck.
Wormhat's worm hat right here is what's going on. Okay.
He break his neck coming down if he ever could turn back. Yes, and he did come back, whiten 10 feet of his cabin, and as easy as bird alighting.
Okay. All right. Okay, so he's describing that this guy took off with the the lifting fluid.
Yes.
And as easy as a bird, and then landed back at his cabin.
So here's a drawing of Goose.
Oh my!
Of Goosey.
I'm excited. Oh, Goosey's awesome.
Why don't you describe it?
Oh, it looks a little bit like Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, it does. Exactly.
You know, it has like these flaps and these fans and this like, it looks like a parachute type of thing to open up when it needs to come down. And then there's like 2, it look like lungs, like 2 air like balloons on the sides.
Yeah.
And one big basket. And under the basket is some like gears and wheels and chains. This thing is dope.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it's all really cool.
Oh, I love Goose. What does it say? Mover and steady? I don't... This is Charlie's Drombach, okay? I can't stop talking about that episode. That's the last time I'll say it. This is Charlie's Drombach. Okay.
No, you can do it. I think this is another sketch of it as well.
This is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this. I'm obsessed. Oh, there's a man like racking himself on the moon.
Yeah.
Up there in the corner.
Yep.
That looks like it hurts. Okay, so the Goose is flying and it's got like what I just described. Looks way more 3D.
Yeah, and so his work starts off like this, which is a little bit more directly representational and rendered.
Yeah.
And then it starts to go more abstract and more graphic, I should say. So I think from what I could read too, it's like you can also see his progress as an artist as he becomes more interested in like being a little bit more representational as opposed to being more directly observational.
Which that is, I will say, as a cartoonist, that is the same route I ended up going.
Exactly.
You know, you learn there's like details and direct representation, and slowly over the years, it's become way more symbolic, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's just one more early sketch. I'm not sure if this is Goose or not. This is just another kind of wild drawing on top of it. It's all very monotone too. It's got like a slight blue accent of detail on it, but
I love this.
It should be said that if you're listening to the podcast, we recommend you watch the YouTube video, because the YouTube video we will be showing all the images.
This one looks like a unicycle with like some sort of contraption above him, and he's got like a screw, and there's like oars, what look like oars coming out the sides. There's a dude in it.
Yep. Okay, so officially, quote unquote, I'm putting quote officially, the purpose of the Sonora Aero Club was to debate ideas and get financial backing in order to build a working airship and get rich.
Oh, okay.
And as stupid as that sounds to us now, obviously, they also kind of understood that at the time. And this 1912 drawing that he did, meaning he drew this in 1912, this is depicting the Aero Garda, explains how most of the time it was just a lot of them talking shit. So, quote, I'm going to bear with me here.
Oh, I will.
Gustav Freyr, a high-educated mechanic, in proposing this enormous idea, enormous spelled with an I, was forced by the rules and bylaws of the society with two S's.
With an S, yeah.
To produce something to be talked of. His turn had come, and jokingly, he stepped to the blackboard, took the chalk, and says, "Brothers, you all know I am not quite a professor. Looking straight to some of the member, I give you a nut to crack. My idea is to put a guard fence all around the machine to fall, land easy, and always safe, to keep some of you smarties from falling out, to down you falling on water, let her somersault, and you will stay perpendicular. I mean, head up on the floor of the hold. He draw a sketch on the board and give a short explanation. Well, some now of you has to pay the treat for me. Tell ye the truth. I am busted and dry as a fish. And they all went to the bar. 1858. So basically saying to put a fence around the flying machine so that things can't fall out when it crashes. To keep you contained.
Okay. There's a lot of words to say that.
Is it even possible to describe this drawing?
No, that's the thing. It looks like it's a circle. It kind of looks like Da Vinci's like man. So, like it has like a geometric circle, and it has like it's pretty much just a very simple but also detailed airship. I don't understand I don't know how to describe this. This is really hard.
Yeah, it's all very tough to try and explain.
You just have to go, even if you just got to go look at the pictures. I love how we have a podcast. This is just
we're like visual podcast. I know, this is my bad. What do they call it? A mandala? Mandala? I always forget. Mandala.
Mandala.
Right? Mandala. That's sort of how I saw it was described a lot, like in the art books and stuff.
I do realize he's using a lot of Americana, like American symbolism, like with the flag, colors of the flag up top.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
A lot of like have you ever played BioShock Infinite?
Did I play Infinite? I don't think so. I played one of the BioShock games. I don't remember which one.
I would not be surprised if BioShock Infinite, the people who made that, used any of this as a reference. This looks like BioShock Infinite.
Well, a lot of what they were saying is that like this is sort of the prototype for steampunk and stuff, is what an argument that a lot of people were making. Again, I don't know if any of these people knew that directly, but this seems
BioShock Infinite is set in the American South, in the clouds above America. I mean, and it's all steampunk airships.
Charles Dellschau would have loved that game.
Yeah.
So, of course, Charlie had a very special role in this club, as we now know. He was their self-proclaimed draftsman. Now, there doesn't seem to be any record of sketches Charlie did from that time, from the actual era of those 4 years we were there. They might have gotten lost, or maybe he's fully insane.
Maybe some of both.
Yeah.
Wait, so is there any proof that this society existed at all?
I'm going to get into that.
Okay.
So within this manuscript, he's like, yeah, okay, like don't trip. I got a memory like a steel trap and I can replicate everything perfectly. And to be fair, phones have like ruined our brains now. And this was like before the internet or TV or like radio, and people's brains must have been like in much better shape back then. You didn't have anything to do.
Oh yeah. They had way more space in their head.
Did you ever hear that story? This is just an aside, but I feel like it's funny. Or like Paul McCartney talked about like writing Beatles songs, where he was like, I don't know how to write music. And we didn't really have tape recorders back then. So when I wrote a song, it had to be super catchy in order for me to remember it.
Oh, that's funny.
So he's like, if it wasn't catchy, I wouldn't remember it and it wouldn't be a song. So
that's why they had so many hits, dude. That's
basically, that's kind of what he was talking about. So I feel like this is sort of what this is, where he's like, I can probably remember it because it was so distinct at the time. But all this is to say, it's like it's like a simulacrum. It's like a copy of something that may or may not have even been fabricated in the first place. Like,
which is pretty much how most history is.
Yeah. Here's a couple more. As we said, like, oh, it's a podcast, and yet we're showing more visual stuff, but I don't care either.
We're artists, and I want this. Oh, this is beautiful. Okay, so this is way more illustrative, I believe
is the correct word. Yeah.
Illustration 68, figure B. So this is really cool. It's like it looks like a biplane almost, but with like these rotating, almost like a seesaw of wheels. Mm-hmm. And there's a guy that looks like there's like a balloon bladder type thing that you can fill up, and whoa.
So you can see that this is probably one of the earlier ones, and then the one I just sent you is like a later one because it starts to get more abstract.
You can, it's crazy. Those early ones are way more like I'm an illustrator, and that these other ones are way more like I'm insane and everyone I loved died.
Or they could also say that like there's a confidence in it because like it's so much more like confident in the way that he's like, this is the shape, this is the drawing, this is what the intention of it is. He doesn't seem like he's doing it light. That was mostly
a joke. I don't think he's actually insane. This one's cool. This one is like, it looks almost like a human skull.
Oh,
like
it does.
A diagram of a head.
Yeah.
And he's got these stop-ep air press.
Yeah.
Facting. I'm just reading what he wrote. Balancier.
Air press. There are more schematics on this one. It seems like he's trying to explain how it works, even though it doesn't make any sense. Okay, he's showing,
it seems like an alien diagram. Or it seems like I got hit on the head and I should understand this, but I don't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it almost feels like...
It's familiar enough
that
I'm like, I'm kind of grasping it, but not all the way.
Again, another gorgeous page.
Beautiful.
At one point, Charles notes that one of the members had discovered a secret source of energy that was alternately referred to as soup, NB gas, soup as in SUPE, like short for super, I think.
Oh.
NB gas like or suppa.
As soup, okay.
This energy...
You mean vril?
Yeah, basically the vril, yeah. This energy source allowed for all kinds of experimental flight, and I'm sorry to say, in the research, this is where shit gets really stupid.
Yeah, okay. Great.
And I do not recommend going down this rabbit hole because it really leads to nonsense. Just to give you a taste.
Okay.
This is pulled from various sources, but the Sonora Aero Club was a secret group thought to be a branch of a larger secret society known as, with the initials of NYMZA, NYMZA.
Okay.
This organization, along with JP Morgan, was the provider of financial backing for the Sonora Aero Club. However mundane Dellschau's professional life as a butcher might have been, his detailed schematics show a technical knowledge very different in the hot air of his Zeppelin era. His knowledge of flight, along with this soup, points to something more cosmic. And then it goes all about some insane interplanetary technology that was brought to Earth and shared with the Hermetic Order and the Knights Templar and blah, blah, blah.
The Hermetic Order's in this? The Knights Templars in this?
Yeah.
Where are the Rosicrucians here or what? Where are
Boring, as you would say.
As Nigel Farage would say, boring. Yeah. Also, I would love to read more about that.
No, you wouldn't.
That sounds amazing.
No, it's not. You do not want to read about this. It'll take you nowhere.
Okay. So it gets into UFO occult stuff.
This is not what's written in the book.
Right.
This is what people are starting to extrapolate from it.
Oh, that's annoying. Okay.
Yeah. And then, sidebar, I actually accidentally found out that some half Persian dude helped found the alt-right, which no thanks. So that should show you the direction that this went. When I was starting, they'd be like, oh, this thing and this thing. This references this.
Alt-right.
Yeah. I was like, oh no.
Look, Persians start most things.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that. From what I've noticed with research, it always goes back to you guys somehow.
Self-starters. Anyway, that guy was just casually mentioned in one of these pages. It was like, who? And I was like, I recognize the name. They didn't say who he was. They just said like philosopher. I forget what his name is. It doesn't matter. He's dumb.
Philosopher. Okay.
Half Persian, so we'll see.
Half what else? What's the other half?
I can't remember. He's like American or Canadian or French or something. I honestly don't remember. I don't care. I don't care.
No one should care.
No one should care. Anyway, the point is to say that like I was starting to read about this, and then it's like, oh no, I'm in like an alt-right philosopher's interview, talking about like the global world order. And I was like, oh no.
Geez.
That's why I'm like,
New World Order.
Yeah, don't go into this.
Yeah, nope.
Anyway, this goes on.
I can see on the way I can see that there's a endless corridors of ways you went that you can't even get into.
Oh, I'm gonna summarize all this by the end, but. So his drawings and his work goes on for thousands of pages.
Thousands.
And as to your point, you asked, did this really happen?
Right.
So there is no direct record of Dellschau in California. However, he makes references to people and places that are historically documented, such as a sheriff by the name of James Stewart, who definitely did exist, and an innkeeper named Freund, who was also well documented.
I wonder, were they easy to read about at the time, or?
I don't know.
I guess, yeah, he could access information all those years later. So yeah, never mind.
Theoretically. So Charles also refers to a trio of murderers as the Lyon, McKeely, and Davis gang.
Whoa.
Which corresponds closely to the names of three men, Lyons, Macaulay, and Poor, who were executed in a widely attended 1857 triple hanging in Sonora.
Whoa.
Charlie may have mixed up Poor with a felon named William Davis, who was hanged earlier that year, but there are a few more instances of records overlapping that seem to be too specific to ignore. So at best, people think that he probably was in Sonora during the gold rush.
Yes.
That's sort of
what he was doing, probably not a secret society.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem too crazy at the very least to say, kind of like how you mentioned a couple episodes ago. It's prior to the 1860s or 1870s?
1860s.
Yeah, prior to the 1860s, there's not a lot of great record keeping.
No. Especially in the territories.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like literally like a lawless area. And like if you think about what people do with lawlessness is that they try to create some sort of order. So I could see people, creating these little groups or little societies to make some sense of the order of the time.
Yeah.
Or,
Exactly. And also, furthermore, what the hell kind of records would really be kept about a bunch of drunk idiots talking about how to make spaceships in the era? Like, that doesn't seem like a super important thing that they need. Also, if they're like, we're a secret society.
I didn't go home and write down everything I said to my friend. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I didn't keep records in college. I just went to college. Anyway.
So, it's kind of like, it's, again, you can go down 1,000, as you said, 1,000 different rabbit holes for this if you wanted to.
I can tell. And I commend you for your journey, wherever it took you.
So one last thing that I'm going to show. So I think, if I'm not mistaken,
this is my favorite.
I think it starts off as drawings, then it goes to like his schematics, and then I think like the last phase becomes more collage-y.
I love this one.
That's where the news article stuff comes around. So they seem to be more focused on the newspaper photograph or like the pictures of planes and stuff.
Whoa,
so it's sort of it's more of like a tribute gallery type thing rather than drawings that he's remembering. So I think that's his final phase. Again, I don't know because I don't have all of them in order in front of me, or I was never able to get like a whole book of all of them together.
Wow, these are so cool. He's added green.
Yeah.
He started to like branch out his colors by this time. No, seriously, he's like, there's this really beautiful sea foam green kind of vibe in this one. Houston, Texas. Has been 4332. Is that his like secret language?
Speaking of which, I don't know if this is part of the weird cipher-y thing. I have no idea what this is.
Whoa, yeah. Oh, that's cool. I'm going to use that. Hold on. This is a secret language. Look at that. Looks like an alien wrote that.
Meet at later bar.
Meet at later bar day or night sometime. Yeah. Oh, look at this one. Sky lubrication. I really enjoy that there's just a cutout that says sky lubrication. And nothing else.
That good old Sky Lube.
Oh, I use Sky Lube. It's way better than. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
So I'm going to keep moving forward. So
I could stare at these all day.
I know you could. As could I.
Okay.
So anecdotally, I saw a lot of people trying to thread certain events together that I don't think make much narrative sense.
Yeah.
So some ufologists have argued that the Sonora Aero Club was real and that sightings of flying objects around Oakland in the 1890s may have been a soup-fueled craft. I think there
I just pictured some technician, some alien technician just pouring soup into a fuel canister. Yeah. Just hot tomato soup.
We need more egg drop now!
Minestrone.
Yeah. So I think this is something that they're referring to as the Great Airship Hoax of 1897, where a bunch of people saw like dirigible UFOs or lights or something, and that would have been somehow links to. I don't know. There was insane interviews going into serious.
Like I want to read about it.
More conspiracy theories. Of
course, this is conspiracy. This is like rife. It's like here's a blueprint for making up your own conspiracy theories, and you can literally plug in any of this into any theory.
So these are
so crazy.
These are not his drawings, but these are just like some of the newspaper drawings I found in reference to what was happening around the Great Airship Hoax in 1897.
Oh, cool! It's pretty much just like these. Oh, this one looks like a boat floating in air. Maybe it was a Fata Morgana.
Maybe I don't. That one. That's a whole other deal.
Yeah. Close that door. We can't go
exactly.
there.
But also I sort of get bored with it. But you know what's not boring are like these hundreds of pages of drawings, like hundreds and hundreds and thousands. So it was said about P.G. Navarro, who was the graphic artist that got his hands on the other batch of the volumes that Mary Jane Victor didn't slang, that she couldn't snag. He went like a little bit nuts trying to make sense of all the contents. Oh. And not literally insane, but just like it was this thing that brought him deeper and deeper and deeper into it because. Okay. And I have to say, like, I started to feel that same way as I was trying to do this.
Just being slowly pulled in.
Yeah. So wow. I want to issue a warning, which is something I would have never done for our tens of listeners, which is we love a good challenge filled with rabbit holes and side quests to pursue, but do not try it with this one. It is too insane. And to try and make sense of it and root it in reality is to make sense of a crazy person's logic. And I read quite a lot of stuff that people were trying to connect real events and records and trying to prove what they thought was factually accurate rather than they were trying to connect it to prove that it was right rather than the other way around of trying to prove what was in the thing that was actually true. So they were doing it backwards essentially.
Right. And whoa. See, this is our very first warning, putting up a sign that says do not enter this rabbit hole.
Yeah, and like you'll get into a lot of, like I said, UFOs, secret societies, conspiracy theories, and then you're trying to track like 75 years of technological development that led to the Wright brothers like cracking the dream of flight. And it's like it basically all I thought of was like it's like the plot of a movie, which is man tries to decipher the true intent behind a madman's diary, goes mad himself.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful actually. So is he still deep in it, like Navarro? Is he still alive?
I don't know actually, to be honest with you. I didn't find out. I couldn't tell you. I didn't look up that specific detail. But which brings me to the most important question of what's the point? What are we in search of? Is there even So is there even a satisfying conclusion to this man's story, and what would it look like? Imagine if you and I were to compile all of our insane cartoons and books into one gigantic omnibus. Would we have had the slightest idea whatsoever what story we were telling about our lives?
No.
Yeah, it's a farce.
I look at this and I see it for what it is. It is somebody's creation, and he made it because he had to. There was something driving him, and it doesn't matter what, but this is what he made. And that's all that matters, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything to find out. I think this is an artistic individual who lost a lot of people he loved, and who was also extremely hyper-focused on his interests. And I say that out of experience. Yeah. Like, I could see myself going down this path. Like, I don't want to say that lightly. I could. Yeah. Like, I look at this and having schizophrenia in my family and knowing people very close to me that are schizophrenic, that is what this says to me, is that this is some form of schizophrenia, some level of schizophrenia, which doesn't mean he's crazy. It just means that as he sees the world in this extremely specific way where things are all linked in a very abstract way. And it's almost really beautiful. It's really beautiful how it turned out. Yeah. That's my take on it. Yeah. And I really like it. And I'm not a psychologist. I can't diagnose a man who's been long dead, but art comes out in all sorts of ways, and that doesn't have to make sense.
Well put.
Thanks.
I had written a little blurb too, but I like yours.
What's yours?
You want to hear my blurb? This is like
Yes, I do.
This is my blurb, my video essay finale. So I said, of all the things that we can do while existing in these mortal coils, none is more powerful, more godlike than the power to create not just art, but stories alongside of it. And to pick this apart for facts feels like to actually Star Wars for having like sound effects in the dead silent vacuum of space. It misses the point. Yes. And the value of Charles Dellschau's work is the story of a man who on the surface lived a remarkably unremarkable existence, but in the twilight of his life spun a yarn so insane, yet so detailed that it managed to confound artists, writers, and historians more than 100 years after his death. And in this video essay, deep analysis, unpacking the meaning of everything era, sometimes we should just let things be. And maybe in life, not everything has to have a meaning. And maybe to just enjoy something as it exists is simply enough. Or maybe like Charles Dellschau, I too am just an insane person.
Yeah, you are. I mean, but think about it. You follow, I mean, both of us are like this, which is why we started a podcast. We follow little breadcrumb trails of our interests,
Yeah.
To the end, to what end? I don't know. I've never reached the end. I've never reached the end of whatever I'm trying to look for. It feeds me. I love these little bits and pieces I get to learn. And this just kind of feels like, yeah, he loved airplanes. And maybe he was a little sad. Maybe he was a little traumatized. Maybe he was a little mentally ill. But who among us isn't?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I just want to enjoy this for what it is.
Exactly.
And storytelling is enough. Doesn't have to have actually happened. Plus, maybe you went to Sonoma and it was like, oh, this would make a cool story if I did this. You know what I mean? As an illustrator, this is literally what we were trained to do in school.
Yeah.
Is to world build and make stories. And anyway, I could just keep going on. I'm getting all wistful about this, but this is...
No, that was the point. That's sort of what I wanted to end on. Yeah.
I hate when people say that, but this was truly so cool. I love this.
Yeah, me too. Although I have to say, during... I'll say one last thing. So that's basically the end of it. But the last thing I'll say is I had such a tough time trying to control, like, rein this one in.
Uh-huh.
And there's, like, fires happening and evacuations and, like, no power and all this stuff. And eventually
helicopters flying above you.
Yeah, just all kinds of chaos during this entire time that I'm trying to write this stuff. And like when I finally was able to, like, a day ago, sit down and, like, look at it, and I was like, oh, I was trying to control a tab that in and of itself without all these things would have just been insane. And it would have just, like, consumed me anyway. But on top of that, doing it during the fires, I felt like I was having, remember I kept texting you being like, I'm having such a hard time trying to, like, thread this. And I was having such a hard time to focus, which is true regardless. But I think I realize now, I'm like, oh, this tab, like you just said, I don't know what it is. I haven't reached the end. I'm like, oh no, I've reached the end now. I'm like, this is the part where I'm like, I'm not going to go further that way anymore.
Yep.
I think I figured out what my limit is, and it was this guy's book.
And it was enough.
It was enough. Yeah. Which is sort of antithetical to what this show has been about, like, for the first season. But now I'm like, I'm cool. I'm okay with this.
Because this is part of it. This is part of how artistic brains work, or however you want to, call whatever you want to call it. There has to be some sort of stop.
Yeah. And like I said,
self-imposed or otherwise.
Yeah. And I was like, and that's, I said, I had to ask the really important question is like, what am I trying to find here? Like,
right.
What does that even look like? What is the answer that I'm going to get? Like, oh, he was there. Okay. Does that change anything? Or he wasn't there. No. Does that change it? Like, it ultimately is, that's really the wrong question, right? Yeah.
Like, if I were him and I was sane, I don't think I'd want people to care about that. I don't know. I'm putting my own stuff on it.
No, I'm fully putting my own stuff on it. That's my point, is that, like, it brought
that's
me
all
in
we
that
can
way.
Do.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's so it's like a litmus test. It's like people are all projecting stuff onto it. And you can have, like, these terrible takes or these more thoughtful or, like, creative takes.
Right. The need for having an answer for everything is actually a prison.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you need an answer for everything.
Exactly.
At all. I don't. I just kind of sometimes am like, yeah, I guess I'll never know. And I'm fine with that.
Yep. Anyway.
It used to be.
So that's my tab. I can finally be done with Charles Dellschau.
Put that back in the attic.
Some things should have been forgotten. Dude. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
What a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Nuts.
Genuinely just deeply loved that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you to Kelly for telling me about it. Kelly,
thank you, Kelly. Yeah. What a treasure. Like, I've never even heard, like, mention of any of this. Like, never in all my internet readings and whatever have I ever heard of this.
And of course, I'll have the show. There's so much stuff I had to pull from. But I also found this one book, which some gallery had, like, a PDF of it, of, like, the entire book. And it was, like, a series of essays that were written by different people that I'll link to in the show notes. If you really want to do, like, a lot of the research that I was able to pull, that seemed to sort of be the quintessential volume of it that was, like, more dealing with the facts and the interpretation of it rather than, like, this is actually, the Knights Templar secret, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't doing any of that. So
when the Knights Templar is mentioned, that's when I
check out. Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, no, sorry. That's, you're white supremacists is what that is.
Yeah.
Well.
Anyway, that's my tab. What do you got for us?
Thank you. I began this rabbit hole when somebody told me about the tab I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
It'll make sense later. And I wish I remembered who it was. It was over Christmas holidays, but I was in like holiday survival mode, and I just could not. I don't remember faces or who talks about what, or whoever you are, make yourself known.
Later bar.
And also thank you.
Yeah.
See, yeah. Meet later bar, dare night sometime. So this began on Wikipedia. And before I get into it, I will say I love Wikipedia, and I know that's controversial. But in its defense, it is a great jumping off point and a really good way for me to keep track of the web of interests and how I built it out with every subject I follow. So I use it as a jumping off point, like a little digital trail of half-researched things that I can go back to and remember where to go from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Uranium. You heard of it?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, famously the
filled
murderer
with urine.
Of, Marie Curie. You know, she ate it. What did she do? She had it in her pockets. That's what it was. She had like uranium rods in her pockets. And okay, before I can talk about the tab itself, I got to talk about uranium. And so uranium is used for nukes, as you know. I mean, I'm assuming.
As you know? Wow.
As you know.
That was a very pointed accusation, Hannah. Is this just because my family's from Iran? Racist.
Please, I quit.
Hannah Hillam. Hannah Hillman. Canceled.
All you need to know about uranium is that it's used for a lot of nukes and power plants and nuclear fuel, radiation shielding, whatever that is, and medicine and research. So we used it for everything. It's all over the place. It was when we first split the atom to all the way up till now, we have used it for so many things.
Yeah.
And it is mined all over the world. So from a ton of different kinds of rocks, you can find uranium. And it's mined in all stages of its natural life, or its natural decay / half-life. The most commonly used uranium isotope is U-238. You don't have to remember that. It is not on the test. And this specific uranium isotope has a half-life of 4.5 billion years. Meaning it will take 4.5 billion years for it to not be radioactive anymore.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. Now, we have 250,000 metric tons of radioactive waste in storage all over the world. Yeah, terrifying. There's a lot of radioactive waste on this planet, like an insane amount that I just didn't even realize was like, that's insane.
Yeah, that's upsetting.
What's wrong with us? Why did we do this?
We need to go to Mars to avoid it.
Oh, shoot him straight into Mars. You know who I'm talking about.
Oppenheimer, obviously.
Oppenheimer, his corpse. So uranium is everywhere. And while it's really helpful, it's also extremely deadly. Like, will kill you upon exposure, as we all know.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick in terms of my knowledge of this, is that I actually kind of know some of this because when Oppenheimer came out, I think I told you the story where I kept trying to get my dad to go see it with me because I was like, he was visiting in town. And I was like, it's a science movie, you'll like it. And then my dad got all bitchy and annoyed. He's like, Oppenheimer's a theoretical physicist. He's not even a real physicist, and got all like Real Housewives about it.
Whoa.
So I was like trying to engage with him and be like, okay, girl, relax. So I was like, how does this work? So I was trying to be like, Dad, tell me about like nuclear physics and like how chemistry works. So he gave me a great lecture about all this. So this is the only thing of recent memory that my dad actually explained to me science-wise that I actually understand. So you're in luck. Otherwise, I'd have just glossed over and been completely like detached. But I already did that for my dad. Anyway, continue.
I don't want your dad to listen to this episode.
Don't worry, he won't listen to any of them.
I am stumbling. When I say stumbling, I mean absolutely stumbling through this information, but it's important. So we've made all this dangerous stuff, right?
Yes.
We're in too deep. There's no going back.
Right.
It's on Earth. What do we do with it? How do we throw it away? Ignore it.
We just look away.
Well, yeah. That's the point.
We buy more stuff on Instagram.
Yes.
We complained more on Twitter. That's what we should do.
On Twitter. That's what's going to do it.
We should just become more addicted to our phones. I feel like that's the only
more we
answer.
Look at our phones, the smaller the half-life gets on uranium. I think I heard that somewhere.
We should let oligarchs become president. That's what we should do.
I think we've already have.
That's true. Ooh. Happy inauguration week.
Happy birthday to me. Woo! Okay. So the first problem we have about storing is half-life, as I said. Half-life can be, you can have something that has like a 10-year half-life or a 700-year half-life, or like I said, 4.5 billion-year half-life. I try not to freak out. Try not to freak out because that's terrifying.
It's too big of a number for us to like wrap our heads around. Which
I'm going to get to in terms of, so how do we dispose of this stuff with the insanely long half-lives. Because right now we have like short-term storage.
We're a little bit into it, right? It's like we're about like 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years into it.
40 years on that 4.5 billion.
We're almost there. We're almost at like 0.000000001% there.
That gives me hope for the future. You know, I love...
I'm a glass half full kind of guy, right?
Your positive attitude. I love that deep under the deserts of Nevada, there is literal tons of deadly waste. But whatever, we'll get there. So
it's okay.
we can't burn it into, as Charlie Kelly says in Always Sunny, into burn the trash until it goes up into the sky and turns to stars, because that doesn't work that way. A lot of people have said we could launch it into space. That's the most common argument. Everyone's
Great
like,
idea.
why don't we launch it into space?
Spaceships don't blow up.
One, it's extremely expensive. $44 billion a year just to put the world's waste into space. And that's not all of it. Two, it could join the rest of the dangerous literal garbage that is circling, that is in orbit around the planet.
Then we have a bunch of nuclear bombs floating around space, like meteors. Like, what the shit is that going to do when it explodes into, like, I don't know, Venus or something, and then it melts the entire planet?
Right. And then what? No Venus. We don't know how Venus affects us. We might need it. I'm yelling. So they'll get pulled back into Earth's orbit and eventually go back into our atmosphere and just land back on Earth. And what if they land in the ocean? What if they land in a town? It's pretty much just a nuclear bomb from space. Number 3. What do rockets do best other than go to space?
Explode.
So a crashed rocket with a payload of nuclear garbage would literally be a disaster that could kill all of us. So that's why we don't put it into space. Don't ask that question ever again, anybody. All right?
Yes.
I got really deep into this. The third option is to bury it. And by third option, I mean there was no 1 or 2.
Right. The only option
there's a number 3 next to this, and for no other reason. I can't find the reason why I put 3. Anyway, bury it, which is what we've been doing. So there's multiple like levels of waste where it's like there's like baby little not bad waste, there's like medium not bad waste, and then there's the really bad stuff. So we have a really good way of doing the first 2, where we put them in kind of like we put them into steel canisters and deposit them into underground concrete vaults, which we fill up, seal, and leave with some warnings on it. There's also
I was just gonna say real quick, the other reason I actually know about this is because I just years later watched Chernobyl, the HBO show.
Oh, yeah. That's a good show.
Did you watch it?
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. That show is unbelievable.
So good.
I was like, it's mind-bogglingly good. But yes, all this stuff, just even watching them bury the dead bodies in those cases because there was so much radiation, I was like, holy shit, I didn't even think about that.
Cannot be exposed to people again.
It's
They're
horrific.
That
it was so crazy to see it.
And like that
show was amazing. The attention to detail on it was so good. I don't know how much of it was accurate,
my eyes
but
for the animal death part. But no, I looked into it because that's one of my toxic qualities is that I go look at the accuracy of every movie I see.
Toxic. Nuclear toxic.
Oh, hazmat. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing this Homer Simpson shirt because he works at a nuclear plant. Mr. Sparkle. So speaking of Chernobyl, when I watched that show when it came out, my friends had just gotten an Oculus. And
look around inside of Chernobyl as it's exploding.
Wait, I'll get there.
Oh no.
So I put it on and everybody else was like, oh, playing this dinosaur game. We can look at dinosaurs. And my very first thing was to go to the maps because you could like put yourself in the spot.
Yeah.
And I was like, where do I go? Where on earth can I not go to? Chernobyl. So I spent a good 3 solid hours. Like I hogged it. Like people wanted a turn and I did not let them have a turn.
Being an ant-hog, dude.
I was like, we're just
TV show references. That's all we do.
That's all this
from like 20 years ago. Not even good shows that are on now.
It's shows from like 2007.
Yep.
Wow, that's almost 20 years ago, isn't it?
Yep.
Anyway,
so you're being an ant-hog going into...
I'm being an ant-hog.
Going into Chernobyl.
I'm in Chernobyl. I'm looking at old playgrounds and classrooms and like... Because people have gone and snuck in there and taken pictures. And so you can like be placed in wherever you want to go in Chernobyl. And it was sad.
I did see something about this. I think at one point, even before we started the show, one of the tabs I had open was about the wildlife kind of adapting to the area that I thought was really interesting. Is that something you're going to talk about?
No.
Okay. But I was fascinated by that. I think I was
thinking... wildlife has adapted is fascinating.
Yeah. It was definitely like a perma-friends, like researchy type thing where I was like, there's a story here that I can pull out of this.
I just got a message saying I missed therapy today.
Ironic.
Oops.
You're like, I'm recording my podcast. I'm mentally stable now. Let's learn about this man who drew 13,000 drawings about a thing that never happened 150 years ago. And then how nuclear waste can destroy everything forever. I'm fine.
I'm fine. I am. Okay, so it's all good. So we've been burying it, right?
Yeah.
And, well, speaking of Chernobyl, like, the half-life, I think it's going to have to be unoccupied for another, a couple thousand years before
I don't think we're
going to
live that long. Yeah, probably not within our lifetime.
Yeah, no. I think I might. I'm starting to, get a bunch of magic supplements from this MLM.
Yeah, soup. I'm just kidding. You're just drinking the soup directly.
I'm drinking this soup straight from the Vril fountain under the earth. Just slurping that soup up. I want some of that, what is it? Liftoff juice? What's it called?
What was the one? Lubricate the sky? What was it?
Lubricate. Yeah, sky lubrication.
Sky lubrication, right.
Cover me in sky lubrication. Get me that liftoff juice, and I'm going to suck that frill straight out of the earth's
soup
veins.
Out of it, yes.
If you haven't heard all the other episodes of this podcast, that was nonsense.
Then don't.
Even if you have.
Just escape now.
Still nonsense.
Just
leave.
Save yourself.
Flee. Go find some nukes. I don't know. Go lick a uranium rod and go the way of your Marie Curie. Hey, she got a Nobel Prize. Okay, maybe
for
you
licking
will too.
Rocks. Yeah.
I'm unhinged right now. I have learned so much about uranium. I found myself deep diving on uranium, and it was 6 hours. I mean, not that long, but an hour in, I was like, I'm not even going to talk about uranium. What's happening to me? Anyway, and then you were like, we can't record this week because my city's on fire. And I was like, okay, I'll put it to rest.
I know, I'm so dramatic.
Just get over it. Anyway, so uranium bad, things not good,
Sure.
In too deep, we've already written our own death certificate. But,
right.
So
it got buried. You got to bury them. And then there's warning signs on the burials, right?
So now we've buried them, and there's these facilities that have opened around the earth for doing these long-term, really deep, buried inside of rock and salt,
That's
deep
cool.
geological disposal sites where we have started to send this high-level nuclear waste to.
Weird.
So there was one that they tried to build called the Yucca Mountain Project. There was a bunch of it. It was in Nevada, and all the Nevada people were like, do not dig in our mountain and leave literal poison in there.
Reasonable request.
Reasonable. All the Native American tribes around there were like, come on, guys.
Come on. Haven't we suffered
Why?
enough?
Come on.
Yeah.
They did bore a bunch of holes in this Yucca Mountain, which is actually interesting because Yucca Mountain has a very specific makeup, geological makeup.
Oh, okay. It wasn't just that they were targeting minorities.
They found
I see.
Those minorities happen to call that land their ancestral home. So
I see. It's almost like those minorities knew.
Maybe that's their fault.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
It's almost like they understood the value of things.
Yeah, almost like they respected.
So strange. What's that like?
The earth that they shared with a bunch of other creatures and things, and we're doomed, dude. Okay, I can't go there.
So they bore holes in the mountain. They bore holes in the mountains.
They bore, but then the government shut it down a bunch, and it never really happened. But there was another one called the WIP in 1984, Waste Isolation Pilot Plant, and it's in the deserts of New Mexico. Okay. And it's designed to store high-level nuclear waste deep underground, hopefully for as long as its half-life, which they also literally store anything that's gotten any radioactivity on it at all. You can just go take there and be like, take care of this, and they'll put it into its respective place.
Or whatever.
They did find a leak in 2014.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah. And so the government was like, hey, you said this was 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Could last. So they fixed it. But so, we do have, this is all we have in the U.S., the country with the most nukes and nuclear waste. So, yay.
Great.
And in 1990, after this place opened, the federal government brought a panel of experts together at WIP. These included climatologists, anthropologists, linguists, geologists, nuclear physicists, writers, architects, and just a bunch of scientists. Carl Sagan was invited, but he
cool.
was like, oh, I'm busy. He didn't come. He just called in.
Yeah.
they were there to answer the question of, now that we've buried it, how do we communicate with future humans the danger of what is buried here?
See, here's the thing I don't trust about those composiums or whatever you want to talk about, like whatever you call it, is that like, gotta have a couple of like regular people there.
Yep.
Just a couple of regular Joes just to be like, what are you guys, idiots?
Oh, yeah.
Like, here's
and I'm going to come... I have my own regular Joe thing about that I'm going to just come in here and solve all of this at the end of. I promise. It'll make perfect sense. So
I just mean, like, just invite a couple of normal people who don't have, like, PhDs.
Right.
It's not at the expense of the smart, like, the highly educated people. Just regular, everyday, just be like, they're going to have a different perspective that might be useful. You don't know. They might just be like, oh, I don't know. This is too complex. Also, if you can't explain it to those people who don't have, like, super PhDs, then your idea is probably not that good. I'm saying things completely unreasonably, and I have no idea if what I'm saying is true or not, but I have an opinion about it. You know why? Because I'm not smart.
Yes. Well, I'm about to get into what they decided on and what they talked about.
Okay, so, great. Let's hear it.
The big question was, how do we communicate with people 10,000 years in the future? They picked that number because 4.5 billion was too much to even comprehend. Even if it's not humans, how do we communicate to future species or to aliens? Oh,
interesting. Okay, yeah.
And if you remember that time capsule episode I did?
Yeah. This is similar to space and stuff too. I get you. It's like, when you're sending stuff out, like, what are they going to find, and how is that communicating to somebody that doesn't
communicate? Like
V'ger. Anyway,
shapes might mean something completely different. So, for reference, 10,000 years ago, humans were discovering farming and agriculture. So, cave paintings were all we have from that time.
Okay.
And we've only had written history for about 5,000 years. So if you were to try to figure out these cave paintings, there's only so much it was pretty easy. They were like things they were hunting or whatever.
Yeah.
So these people got together and quickly ruled out language because they realized language couldn't work because we have no idea how or when empires will rise and fall and languages will be eliminated. We don't know if a new species with a completely different language system or alien will evolve. And there's no way to even communicate, like, how to say the words that you're writing.
Yeah, phonetically.
Because what if they don't have mouths?
Yeah.
Or, like, what if we've evolved? I mean, what if there's just no we're in the Stone Age again. How would that work? So they quickly were like, language isn't going to work. Writing isn't going to work. So they went to symbols. And Carl Sagan actually wrote in, and he's like, I figured it out. I've solved it. Just use the skull and crossbones.
Yeah, that was my
like,
first
bro, you're
thought.
not even here.
Yeah.
You're not even here. And one of the historians or linguists or whatever that was there was like, hey, 400 years ago, the skull and crossbones meant rebirth. It was pirates that changed it.
Interesting.
So there's the whole thing about like symbols take on new meanings.
Yeah.
Within a few hundred years, to the point where we don't even remember what they meant before. So how are we going to make some symbol that looks universally as a symbol of you will die if you open this? They have another proposal. You know the Scream by Munch?
Yeah, of course.
They decided that is a pretty universal expression of fear and panic. So they have proposed using a simplified icon of that Scream face to put on the side of casks and monuments
really funny.
and sites. Isn't that interesting? Because if you think about it, it is truly like a scary... Yeah.
And in some places, they're going to cut the budget and be like, we actually just use a poster from Home Alone instead, because it's basically the same thing. What if it's a big Home Alone fan that finds it and they're like, oh my God, I love Kevin McAllister. Maybe there's some cool Home Alone merch in here. I'm going to open it up, and then nukes.
Yep. You know what? They shouldn't have come here on a tourist. They came to Earth to visit because there was a place where Home Alone was made.
I'm not convinced. Monk, I don't think so. Kevin McAllister, easy mistake to make.
That's the thing. It could also be like, what's this bald person screaming for? Or are they singing? Like... Or what if, it just means a completely different thing?
Maybe they're putting on aftershave.
Yeah.
So on a face that wasn't shaven, by the way. Home Alone's, the entire marketing campaign is predicated on a lie. Continue. If he had shaved his face, that's what aftershave is. It's got alcohol in it, and it's the cuts on your face that are burning from the razor. That's why it would hurt. But if you're an 8-year-old boy and you haven't shaved your face, if you're just rubbing alcohol on it, there's no cuts for it to hurt.
Whoa, you're right.
Anyway, sorry. Now I'm actualing Home Alone, which doesn't matter.
Whatever.
But continue.
Nothing matters. We're all going to die and nukes are going to outlive us.
Thank God.
All right? So they eventually kind of rule out symbols as something that would be lasting.
Okay.
The next is visual storytelling, which is something that I would have thought.
Yeah,
let's make a comic. So one of the panelists, John Lumberg, he decided to create a comic.
That's cool.
I'm going to send you a picture of this comic. Yeah, I want to see it. It's not good.
Oh.
It's not.
Again,
no
should have had a graphic novelist, should have had a comic artist as part of this. We would have thought of that first.
Yeah. So look how primitive this comic is. Just you got to click on it and open it.
Okay, so it's 3 panels. And the first panel is a man who's just gallivanting in front of a nuclear box of some sort, and there's a couple of trees behind him. He looks very happy. Then the second panel, he changes his t-shirt to have a nuclear symbol that matches the box because I guess he's a huge fan of it and he wants to show his support. And then in the third panel, he's lying down on the ground, and now the tree that was behind him, the shrub, got really big, and he's choking himself.
Yeah. So that is a perfect example of why that would never work. Because even now, you looking at it, none of that makes sense.
No.
And they pointed out, like...
Is he? You said he's a comic artist, or he's not a comic artist?
No, he's not. He's an anthropologist. But
I mean, look, for an anthropologist, it's not bad for somebody who's never drawn a comic before. I shouldn't be too mean about it, but...
No, it's fine, because this is a stupid idea.
Yes.
And if you're going to communicate something, hire a real artist.
They couldn't just hire somebody? Why wouldn't they just hire somebody?
Right. This was the 80s. There was a bajillion cartoonists.
Now they would just do it in AI. Jim Davis.
Get Jim Davis in there. And his army of cartoonists, minions or whatever. Okay, so the first panel is supposed to be him accidentally touching or just going into his hand.
With his hands, his stump hands. Yeah, I was going to say he has no fingers.
His stump arms kind of touching the nuclear or the radioactive sign. And then it's supposed to communicate that now he is radioactive because he has the radioactive sign on him. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I understand. I was being cheeky with the reading of it before. I understand now. And then he touches the ground.
Oh, no, I know, but it's so dumb. And then he's just laying on the ground dying. But the tree is bigger. Makes no sense. So...
is it saying because he now touched the ground that the ground is now nuclear and that's why the tree got bigger?
That's the problem.
Also, I don't think that's how that works. I don't think you get... In fact, I don't think you get nuclear radiation poison. He's not the Incredible Hulk.
No.
I think that die.
They just drew the tree bigger because they're not good at this.
But it's just it's significantly larger in the sequence of panels. It looks like it's meant to have grown by the third panel.
Oh, maybe it means like over time you will die.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't think of that.
Me neither, because again, this doesn't communicate very well. But even to us who understand pictures. And then some of the other panelists were like, "Bro, what if they read it backwards? Then it looks like he's finding the fountain of youth."
Oh, that's a good point. And then he loses his t-shirt by the end of it.
Right, and he's shirtless. No, but because they were pointed out that even half the world now reads what we consider to be back to front.
Right, that's true.
So we don't know how people are going to read, if they're going to read that way. How is it going to communicate? So comics don't work.
Comics do work.
They do.
They just have to have one. They should have just gotten Gary Larson to do it, and it could have just been like a Far Side comic.
One panel, perfect. I think he would have done that really well.
Yeah. Get Gary Larson on the phone. Sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
But this is my favorite one.
Okay.
Is the concept of shunned land.
Oh.
And panelist Mike Brill, who's a landscape architect, was like, no need to pass any on through symbols or art. Instead, we're going to make the landscape look so terrifying that no one would want to go near it.
Until there's a nice coffee shop around it, and then
or until they get obsessed with it, like Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, if the landscape's interesting, humans are going to be like, "Oh, interesting! I'm going to go look at it." Like,
I'm going to build an apartment complex right here, directly on top of all this nuclear waste, so you get nuclear waste views.
Oh, that's bleak. Capitalism still exists in 10,000 years.
Let's hope not.
So, it was to make shapes that invoke fear or harm, and he proposed something called the Landscape of Thorns, which is such a dope sounding name. I'm going to send you a picture.
Is it just the letter thorn, but like made out of rocks over and over again?
Yeah. These are his mock-ups of what the Landscape of Thorns would look like.
Yeah, that definitely does not look inviting.
No,
it's not very at all. It's just giant spikes coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
Although I could see some weird, I don't know. Here's the thing too about the internet now is it's like people will spring up fandoms around anything.
Yep.
So somebody could be like, "Oh my God, this spiked whatever, like studded belt aesthetic is like my whole deal. I want to have a house here." And then they would just move in. There's no answer. You can't. There's nothing you can do.
There's no answer. Doesn't stop anyone from making even more crazy things. So, Shondaland is the problem is that
what you said?
Yeah, Shondaland is going to survive for 10,000 years. No, shunned. Like,
oh, Shondaland. I'm sorry. I literally thought you said Shondaland.
I know. It sounded like it. Shunned land, meaning...
Grey's Anatomy will still be running in 10,000 years.
Oh, you know what? It probably will.
Yeah, that show's been on forever, man.
If anything. So they didn't end up doing really any of this.
Understandable.
Okay?
Yeah.
They just did granite monuments with, like, buried libraries of all the languages of the UN and Navajo. But Mike Brill was not the only person to suggest using landscape to communicate danger. In 1993, SNL, not Saturday Night Live, sadly, Sandia National Laboratories came out with a report concerning how to communicate, and they made 4 levels of communication that you can focus on. So level 1 is rudimentary. So they wanted to communicate that something man-made is here, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. Level 2 is cautionary. Something man-made is here, and it is dangerous.
Okay.
Level 3 is basic info. What, when, why, where, who, and how.
Okay.
And level 4 is complex info. Highly detailed written records, diagrams, pictograms, maps, all of that. And Sandia National Laboratories was like, we can't just use one of these. We got to use all of them because, duh.
Please tell me this guy goes on to be a video game designer, because that's essentially what this sounds like.
It does. This whole thing sounds insane.
Yeah. Speaking of not Half-Life, but what game you were talking about? Sorry, you were talking about
Bioshock.
Bioshock. Yeah.
The Sandia National Laboratories also aimed this report at, like, they gave examples of what they wanted everything to evoke, the feelings they wanted to evoke in these communications. And this is the most insane sounding things. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Here's their example of the vibe of what they want to evoke. This place is a message and part of a system of messages. Pay attention to it. Sending this message was important to us. We considered ourselves to be a powerful culture. This place is not a place of honor. No highly esteemed deed is commemorated here. Nothing valued is here.
Oh, no. It's like getting game instructions. I've already checked out. Yeah. I'm going to go right into the nuke.
Please. Exactly. It's like, I'm already touching the nuke.
Boring.
Like,
yeah.
What is here was
so many
dangerous
rules
and repulsive to us. This message is a warning about danger.
All that makes me want to do is go look at it more.
I know. That's the problem. The danger is in a particular location. It increases toward the center. The center of danger is here, of a particular size and shape, and below us.
This is just a mystery. It just wants me to go forward.
It wants you to dig and open up whatever canisters you can find. So this form of danger is an emanation of energy. So this is all just like, however you communicated, this is what they want to get across. That this is a bad place, this is yucky and cursed, and no one should go here, and there's an evil energy here that will kill you. This place is to be is best shunned and left uninhabited. But as you know, humans famously do the complete opposite of what's good for them. So there's no way. If I saw anything that told me not to look at something, I'd go right over to it.
Immediately.
I wouldn't even finish reading it.
Yeah, I would just be like, danger?
I'd be like,
Let's
cool,
see
symbols.
what this is. Yeah.
Is this some marker for me to dig at? Because this seems like that's what it is.
Also, if you've never seen those symbols before, you'd be like, this is interesting. What is this? I want to go learn more about these symbols.
Or you'd like start worshiping it. Yeah. That's another thing.
I think they should have gone the opposite direction. Just been like, the first sign should have just been like, get rich quick, just input your credit card information. And immediately I'd be like, scam. Not wasting my time with this bullshit and just leave.
No way. They're trying to sell me something.
Yeah, exactly. No thanks.
So the other question comes, if we're going to make the landscape look terrifying, is that even a good idea? It'll just draw people to it. So we got to decide if we want it to drive people away or actually bring people to it to read about it. So that was what they had to figure out. Like, do we want to scare them in like a deep primal sense, or do we want to explain? And a lot of people are like, explain, idiots. Our same brains have been in humans for like the last 30,000 years. Yeah. Why wouldn't it be something that they could potentially understand or come to understand later? Like, it's an ethical question. Like, do we treat the future humans like idiots, or do we treat them like they deserve to be treated, which is thinking beings? But then you get the idea of like, well, what if they're not even, what if they're not us? What if it's not us? What if it's just a bunch of like highly evolved elephants who are kind of stupid? I don't know. I made
their own fault.
Up. Yeah.
It's victim blame at that point. Also, we're dead. What do we care?
That's the thing. And here's my solution, okay?
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. We just bury it, hope for the best. We do all these things, but here's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to open it up and they're going to die, and then no one else will touch it.
Yeah.
And that will keep happening.
Yeah, I think that's the
every 1,000 years until
one sacrificial lamb every couple of generations. Yeah, I think that's honestly.
Unfortunately, I mean, then it'll release it into the water, whatever, it'll get out into the earth. But then what? They have shorter lifespans, and they got to figure that out. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, it's not, I don't know if is it our responsibility to protect people 10,000 years from now from something we did now?
I mean, I would say if we're able to.
Right.
Also, it's a pretty interesting question, though. Again, it's really interesting that they would bring in nobody who works as a visual storyteller, nobody who works as like a designer, even people who work with like UX design or something. Like these are all like, this should have been a symposium for creatives, not for scientists, respectfully.
Well,
because this is literally the thing that we all exist in 24/7 all day long.
Right. Well, that's like, again, people don't look at the arts as something that is innately part of human experience. They look at it as like a hobby, and it's not. Storytelling and art has been part of us from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, honestly, even if you were to figure out a way to do it with like sound, like just having like dissonant notes play that would make you really upset would be like a very easy, like that requires, I mean, then you have to deal with like whatever pulleys and strings and stuff like that where an instrument could survive. But
no,
like,
you don't, because there's somebody who did this.
Oh, seriously?
Yes.
I like how I figured it out in like
that's the thing. So
the span of the podcast.
Before this whole commission, this like panel went off, there was another panel in the 80s that was formed to try to solve the same problem. And this one was full of some insane ideas. One of them, and not by insane, I mean, some of them are insane, but this one was really interesting. They proposed to design an information center over the Yucca Mountain thing, or whatever you want to put it over, in the shape so that when the wind blows, it creates an extremely uncomfortable and terrifying whistling noise.
Nice.
That like raises the hair on your back.
That's
on
cool.
Your neck. So as you're looking, and again, the Sandia place, the people were like, oh, there's the 4 levels. They want to do all 4 of those levels. So the basic communication, which is the wind on your neck, which makes you feel insane, mixed with these warning signs to establish that something doesn't feel right here, and these signs are dangerous. So it's this pronged approach to communication that we need as humans, like to kind of cover all the bases.
Yeah,
you know?
just
like
to
some
irritate
of us
the
might
shit
not,
out of you.
or just be like, oh, I don't care about wind or whistles or whatever.
I don't care about these ducks.
I don't care about these ducks. My favorite. So this is my favorite proposal from this commission, this other panel from the 80s was called the Human Interference Task Force. And there's one guy named Thomas Sebeek. He's a linguist, and his idea was to create a new religion with an atomic priesthood, which is such a good band name.
Literally just Planet of the Apes. Return, or the second Planet of the Apes. I forget which one. Is that Escape from Planet of the Apes? No.
Literally
Return
all
to
sci-fi.
Planet of the Apes. Yeah. No, but they literally worship the nuclear bomb in that movie. That's what it is. It's like the nuke is the thing that they worship in that film.
Whoa. That's pretty much this.
That's literally what it is. That's from the 60s. Or actually 70? I forget what year the second one came out.
Well, he kind of based this on Asimov, some of Asimov's work.
I was going to say, it does kind of feel like Foundation a little bit.
Yes.
Not in the sense of like nuke, but just like, hey, we need to be able to have be able to communicate or like maintain a line of communication with people like 10,000 years into the future.
That's literally what this is. And he kind of got laughed at because he was like, he compared it to the Catholic Church. Which, I'm sorry, don't use that as an example. They're not, there's been a bajillion schisms in it, and it doesn't, But he said something like the Catholic Church, where there is a group of people that has this information, and they're the atomic priesthood, and they pass it on.
Hermetic. A hermetic order.
Oh.
Who knows things. There are these knights.
Interesting.
Who hang out in a temple.
The Knights Templar. I've heard about them.
Just give it to the Knights Templar. They'll figure it out.
They came to America first.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that. I'm yelling so loud. So I like the idea of atomic priesthood, but as we all know, religion doesn't stay the same for like 10,000 straight years.
Yeah.
It completely warps and changes, and everyone ends up, there's schisms, and we're humans. We fight each other and kill each other over like what we believe. And then who's to say we're even going to understand any of it? There's going to be rebellions and like, well, why can't I go touch this stuff or dig in this ground? Like, who cares? There's just no answer.
There's it'd be interesting to think of the fact that like, what if at some point they figure out how to figure like an antidote? They're like, oh, you just drop this whatever soup on it, and then suddenly it's like no longer nuclear, and it neutralizes it, right?
We don't, exactly.
That might be a thing that happens.
It could, yeah.
Certainly 100 years ago, no one thought we'd have a nuclear bomb.
Right. Or like Instagram. Just kidding.
Much more destructive.
Arguably, yeah.
But yeah, you never know.
So this atomic priesthood, it sounds cool, but also just the logistics of it and knowing humans, there's no way it will work. This brings us to the next one that I love.
Okay.
What is called a ray cat.
A ray cat?
A ray cat.
Okay.
And this is the tab that somebody told me about, and I can't remember who it was. And this is what started my entire deep dive into this. And a ray cat is a proposed cat that would be genetically engineered to change its appearance or color in the presence of nuclear radiation. Yes. Okay.
There are no bad ideas, right?
There are. And at this point, there are literally no bad ideas. What this couldn't hurt to just... Anyway, so these two philosophers, Francois Bastide and Paolo Fabri, decided that they were going to propose this for that long-term nuclear waste warning message that they were putting out this call to people to like help with.
Yeah.
And they're like, we should do a living radiation detector. But no one ever did it. But it became this kind of
shocking
inside joke among the nuclear, shock. Well, we'll see. People are trying to do it. But they proposed it to the United States Department of Energy, the Human Interface Task Force, and everyone's like, oh, I don't know, we kind of like this atomic priesthood idea, and oh, it's 84, and we're all just like on coke, just snorting lines of coke, talking about radiation cats, radioactive cats. And Paolo Fabri said he wanted to create a living radiation detector in the form of some species that would persist alongside humans. So not necessarily dogs, but cats would work really well because
cockroaches would have been the best.
Cockroaches, what is wrong with us?
Those things will last forever.
As humans.
Just teach cockroaches to just start the Templar of whatever, and they'll be the ones that will be there. Just don't give it to humans. Cockroaches will just be like, aye, Captain. We're going to protect this nuclear area so that humans don't go inside. Just put a bunch of cockroaches around it. That's it. They'll never leave, and no one will ever inhabit the area.
Yeah, everyone hates I don't hate cockroaches.
I don't think you want to live where there's like 10 million cockroaches, though.
No, I don't.
That's all you got to do. Just make the area perfect for cockroaches. But then maybe you'll have like a bunch of nuclear cockroaches become gigantic and take over and kill all humans. I don't know.
I just feel like as an artist, seeing like a glowing cockroach would just intrigue me.
That's a you thing. I think a glowing cockroach would make me want to go away from that thing as fast as possible.
Again, there's no answer to this question. But this is, they refer to it as a feline Geiger counter. And this is where...
That's kind of cool. Geiger is a fun name for a cat too, but...
Oh, yeah, it is. So they said that how do we actually communicate that the cat means danger? Well, we're going to make up a entirely new system of folklore to pass down. Okay? So what's better than oral history? That's all we have, really, as humans. So we got to make some sort of proverb or song or something that's catchy enough that will last for 10,000 years that tells us that that cat over there is a signifier or is like an omen of death. And in response to that, there's a musician called Emperor X who wrote a song called 10,000 Year Earworm to discourage settlement near nuclear waste repositories.
It sounds like it was titled by Charles Dellschau.
AKA Don't Change Color, Kitty. And it's on Spotify. You can listen to it. It is extremely catchy. And Emperor X is a former science teacher, and he was told to make the song so catchy and so annoying that it might be handed down from generation to generation over 10,000 years. And it's fast-paced. I listened to it. It was stuck in my head for like a week straight while you were
it's basically just Carlos Santana and Matchbox 20. Get your heart for real. Just forget about it. It's just that for 10,000 years.
But yeah, you can listen to it if you want it stuck in your head for a week. But I don't recommend it. And it only has like 50,000 listens on Spotify. So I want to get those numbers up for Emperor X.
50,030 after everybody who's listened to this podcast goes and listens to it.
I think it's 50,010.
Okay.
So some have called the song an actual bop or very catchy.
Interesting.
And then 99% Invisible was the one. Do you know that podcast?
Of course, yeah.
They were the ones who commissioned him to write this because they did this whole series on long-term nuclear waste like stuff. It's really good. Anyway, everyone's like, that kind of sounds cool, but like logistically, how are we going to change the cat's genetics to the point where it can glow when it gets near to radioactivity? And also, like, folklore changes. We can't just create new religions. We can't create folklore. It comes out of something. And we're going to end up creating it ourselves anyway. When someone's living near these nuclear depositories, they're going to find some new folklore to come up with. Hey, the plants grow differently here. Or, hey, the animals have extra legs here. So, like...
Might I make a suggestion that you would like?
Yeah.
Turn it into a bog. Jack-o'-lantern, remember, comes from the bog. And it's not a good area to settle in. It's not a good area to build houses. Just make a bunch of water and like bog stuff. Although I guess then people are going to try and swim in the bog in their dumb outfits.
Yeah.
Like we learned about.
I would
Never mind.
The point is that there's no answer to this, and we're all going to be long dead by then, and I'm hoping for the best.
You're like, not my problem.
That's truly not my problem. And everyone go listen to that song. And that was it's called the Ray Cat solution. People are still trying to do it. And it's become kind of like a cheeky little inside joke among nuclear people.
That's awesome.
Nuke heads.
Nuke heads.
Nuclear enthusiasts, nuke heads. And I just love the idea of a glowing what is it called? Radioactive cat. And that's my insane endless tab.
That was lovely. That was a very fun one to try and decipher, figure out if I could figure it out. But of course I didn't. But now I'm going to be thinking about that all day long and be like, how do I actually make this happen?
Yeah. Well,
I feel like there has to be an answer.
There's,
that's the theme of today. Is like that we think that there's an answer and there's not.
That's the thing. There's no answer to this.
No.
We have irresponsibly created a deadly weapon before we even understood it. And now we're screwing over generations of people and creatures. And we got to figure it out. We've got to figure it out. I don't know if we will.
I don't think so. That was awesome. Thank you, though.
The lyrics to the song,
the
Gray Cat song, are don't change color kitty, keep your color kitty, stay that pretty gray. Don't change color kitty, keep your color kitty, keep sickness away. So it's real annoying.
Okay.
There it is.
Thanks
awesome. For listening.
I am so excited to close these tabs. I do not want them on my stupid computer anymore. There's so many tabs. I need them to go away.
Okay, so are we going to do this? Ready?
Should we do a nuclear bomb going off?
The door. Yeah. Let's do the Trinity Project bomb, if you can get that sound. You're just like, I don't care.
I just want them to be gone. Sloppenheimer's bomb.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, thank
Hang on.
God.
I'm closing so many tabs.
Oh, God. I'm so sick of it.
I'm still closing. Hold on.
I just keep them all in one window with a million tabs. I don't have them in a bunch of different tabs.
Smart. Look at that. Big brain science person.
No, because then I have to go clicking on like multiple different tabs. Be like, wait, where was this? Where was that? And then I have to go, I'm an idiot. Do not call me a smart person.
Oh, I would never think of it seriously. I'm just kidding. You're very smart.
Okay, moving on to listener emails. Email number 1 is from Janine in San Diego. San Diego. Hi, Kaveh and Hannah. Love the podcast. I've been living in San Diego for a couple of decades now, but I grew up in California's gold country.
Hey, this is related to the whatever.
That's why I chose this one. Never in a million years would I have imagined hearing the name of my little town, Sonora, on your podcast.
Hey.
Well, actually, I'm from Miwok Village, but Sonora is our closest big city.
Oh, interesting.
I tried not to read too much about this Aero Club because I'm waiting for the next episode, but I had to send you an email about a probably unrelated but still interesting tab, E. Clampus Vitus, a.k.a. ECV, a.k.a. The Clampers. Which just makes me think of Futurama as like, the clamps! Give him the clamps, boss! You tried clamping them?
We just we recite TV shows.
Yeah. When I think of the gold rush areas of California, clubs that started in the 1800s and wild history that may or may not be true, I think of the ECV.
Ooh.
The ECV is a fraternal organization that is interested in history and has a motto of credo quia absurdum, generally interpreted as meaning, I believe it because it is absurd.
What? This is pretty much what you were talking about.
Exactly. They also sometimes call themselves a drinking club with a history problem.
Yep.
Clampers are a wild bunch, but they are also responsible for a number of historical plaques across the state of California and many other states as well. There are even websites, many that clearly look as if they were made in the 1990s, where you can look up the various ECV monuments/plaques in your area. Alternately, this is the Google map. Anyhow, if you delve into Eclampus Vitus, be prepared for the wild ride of facts, maybe facts, and a good dose of humor and joy for Janine.
The speed with which I opened that link of hers isn't... Oh?
It's a lot.
Whoa! Oh, Janine, what have you done?
Fun fact, Janine, as I was researching, I did come across Eclampus Vitus. I did open that tab, yes, as I was learning about all the different, again, so many rabbit holes. And it looked fun, and I looked at it, and I was like, nope, I don't have time for this. I can't deal with this right now. But I did come across it, which is why I was excited when they wrote in about it.
There's one right next to my house.
Oh, interesting.
No joke. A block away from my house.
Should we just take the camera and go out into your house, by your house, and see if you can find it?
I think I've read this thing. What?
You probably have.
I can't even say it because then everyone will know where I live. Oh, wow. This is my new favorite thing. Okay.
There is not one by my house, but there is one not by my house.
Good. Not vague at all. Thank you, Janine.
The Magic
this
Castle?
Kind of thing.
That seems to be one.
Yeah, the Magic Castle is one.
That's the closest one, which is not particularly close. But okay. Anyway, sorry, continue. Yes.
Phoebe. This is from Phoebe from Alfred.
Okay.
Hello, Hannah and Kaveh. My name is Phoebe. She, they, 122 tabs, which I love the idea of people reporting their
including
tabs.
their tab numbers. That's a good idea. We should start asking for that.
Please do that. And I think I'm around 122 right now, too. And I grew up in the little town of Alfred that Hannah's ancestor Anne Hutchinson is from.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. My tab will allow you to mispronounce more British place names. It brings me joy to hear the unusual emphasis in your American accents, as well as including an item that was buried in the bog. And this is a link to an archaeology.co.uk article about magic and mining. So she goes on to say the Brinlow shovel, is it what, Brinlow? I don't even care.
Brinlow.
It's going to be pronounced wrong. Brinla. I just know that Bryn, Bryn means hill.
Brinlow shovel. Bit odd, isn't it?
I want Phoebe to like us. So the Brinlow shovel was dug up out of Alderley Edge in Cheshire near Manchester. Manchester! In 1875, but didn't draw much attention other than being noted in a book of scientific jottings about the area. Around 80 years later, this book was read by fantasy author Alan Garner, who by chance recognized the shovel from his infant school classroom.
Whoa.
I'm not sure what it was doing there. Museum experts were initially disinterested, and it was another 37 years before it was finally identified as a Bronze Age wooden tool, a very rare find because plant-based tools don't usually survive for several thousand years. Thank you.
That's your solution.
I was just about to say, I think we figured it out.
That's it.
Let's get a wooden shovel that says, please don't dig here.
Thanks, Phoebe.
Let's give that. No, we're not done yet. Thank you for filling up my ears with chaotic energy and random knowledge. You're welcome. I have no control over how I sound. Phoebe. P.S. If you're interested in the picture of the shovel in that book, it's on page 65 here and sends at archive.org. And then P.P.S. The past year has been tough, and blocking out my intrusive thoughts with you both has sometimes been the only thing that's got me through stressful tasks like getting dressed and preparing food. I relate to that so deeply. To that's who the last podcast guys are for me, where I'm like, I got to get out of bed and do chores. I better have my...
Just have my friends on in the
social
background.
Friends, yeah. Plus, I always have a good conversation topic on hand. PPPS. I suggested going to Taco Bell to my friend the other day because I've never been and I've heard a lot about it, but her swift shake of the head and warning look said it all. Speaking of radioactive chemicals, radioactive waste,
just leave a Taco Bell there.
People recommend going to Taco Bell in England. I just don't know if it's
Have you been
there. No, I chickened out. I drove past the Bradford Taco Bell when I was visiting Leeds, and I was like, because Bradford's where my family came from, and I went and did the whole American thing where I checked it out, and right next to the area where they worked in the weaving industry, there was a Taco Bell, and I was like, whoa! And Sean's like, should we go? And I'm like, I don't want to ruin Taco Bell for myself.
I also hate my own instinct to do that whenever I go somewhere and then I see some, and there's this idiotic irony poison part of me that's like, oh, it's fun to go to the Taco Bell across the street from the Sagrada Familia. But also I'm like, don't go to the Taco Bell across the street from the Sagrada Familia. Why did you spend all this money to go eat Taco Bell here? And then it's just the battle. It's the battle.
It's the battle between like having a funny story,
right,
versus
idiots
actually respecting the place you're at.
Just
like,
an idiot.
Or even like putting Taco Bell into my body that's already jet lagged and travel worn. Like that sounds insane. Also, I bet it's like healthier in England. That Taco Bell probably has healthier stuff, and I'm not
spices,
here for that.
Probably. It's got like the regular whatever beans in it. What are the English beans? The Heinz beans are in their burritos.
It's like breakfast beans or whatever.
They put Marmite instead of like hot sauce.
They put mild curry sauce on there because that's about the only.
It's just beans on toast. That's all it is, and they're like, "This is Taco Bell."
But the beans on toast, the toast is folded like a taco.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's perfect.
I'll say I do like beans on toast. Depends. You got to cover it in pepper. Okay. If you guys want to submit listener mail, email us at 500opentabs@gmail.com, 500. And you can also submit voice memos if they're under a minute or so.
Around a minute. It doesn't have to be under a minute, but around a minute is
We
good.
will find you and we'll put you down in that nuclear storage if you do over a
With
minute.
The nuclear cats and cockroaches.
You know what? Throw me into the nuclear storage. There's a better,
it's the nuke bog, all right? Way. I tried.
Put me in the nuke bog.
Yeah. So thank you to everybody who submitted. We have a show coming up, right?
We do. Emerald City Comic Con. That is going to be March 6th through the 9th.
6th through the 9th, yeah.
We will be there. I don't have the booth yet, but come say hi, please.
There's also a panel, right?
Oh, yeah, we have a panel that
we have completely not been talking about it because LA's been on fire and I haven't had time to do anything.
Excuses.
Yeah, I know, right? More info on that.
Yeah, we have a panel at 6:45 on Friday. I don't know the room yet.
Oh, shit, okay.
But come to that. It's going to be the Escaping the Algorithm one we did at San Diego with
taking it on the road.
Guests. Yeah. And right now I'm not feeling like there's any escape from anything. So let's hope I feel a little more positive. Mr. I'm surrounded by 5 different fires at all times.
I'm actually there's only 2 fires around me now, thank God.
Hey, thank goodness. Okay.
And also,
thank you to Alyssa.
Yes, glad that Alyssa's safe. Thank you for making it through.
I meant just like thank you for editing this podcast.
That too, of course. That's a given. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to stop talking. Go ahead.
Your turn.
Thank you guys. Please, etc., so on and so forth. Sign up for the Patreon. There's exclusive clips there. Sign up for the Discord. There's fun stuff happening in there. Follow us on 500 Open Tabs on Instagram and on the other one, Blue Sky, that I always forget about. I'm Kaveh Taherian on Blue Sky and PermaFriends on Instagram.
And I'm Hannah Hillam on everything.
But thank you guys for listening. Thank you to everybody for the kind messages about our safety and Alyssa's safety. I think, knock wood, hopefully for now we're out of the woods. So hopefully it's only going to get better from here, but we'll see.
Or if we're Phoebe and Alfred, touch wood. They say touch wood over there instead of knock on wood.
Oh, touch wood?
Yeah.
That's weird. Like go out and touch grass, or like instead of knock wood.
Instead of knock on wood, they say touch wood.
Touch wood, knock wood, whatever you got to do. Bury nuclear bombs, whatever.
Launch wood into space.
Launch wood into space. Just give it to us raw. Anyway, thanks guys. Until next time, keep it juicy.
Keep it Josie.
See you later. See you in 10,000 years. No, 10 billion, whatever it was.
4.5 billion.
4.5 billion. Yeah. Anyway, bye.
Bye.